This was an old maintenance work area.
Okay, I finished my break here. Where they kept bridge timbers, and they're still here for the repairs that never happened because the railway stopped operating 23 years ago. I know, I sound like a broken record. Okay, let's walk into the weeds. So continuing westbound, this is mile 14.6 and a bit. And we're heading to, hopefully, mile 16.7 is our turnaround. So we'll continue to hug the northwest end of Cameron Lake. Far above the lake, we'll just get a few small glimpses of lake. Nothing like what we saw here at the Trestle behind me. Okay, let's continue the exploration of what has nature done in pushing back in the last 15 months since I've been here.
Welcome. This is part 2 of a 2-part series of my hike. In part 1, I started at the east end of Cameron Lake, saw a big rock slide that was new to me. I crossed over a couple old trestles that were in poor shape up top, and that's where we start this video, at the far end of this trestle. A quick location orientation. We're on Vancouver Island, the west coast of British Columbia, the red circle between Parksville and Port Alberni. This is the north side of Cameron Lake, shown here in the middle of this map. Here's a close-up of the lake area, the railway on the top side, and the highway on the bottom side. The starting point for this video is approximately the middle point down the lake. Mile 14.6 Trestle, but the start of my hike was on the far right side of this map, about mile 12.35, and my turnaround point far left side of the lake, mile 16.7. So in total, this was 4.35 miles each way. That's 8.7 miles total, about 14 kilometers total return. Took me about 6.5 hours because it was really hard going. So here's the route of today's video, shown in red, going from right to left.
Oh yeah, let's just push through all this ugly Highland corridor jungle. This is the glamorous, romantic part of historical railway hiking. Being slapped in the face by broom weeds. At least here I can see the rails, so I can stay orientated. There'll be a few places where it's harder to see the rails. I'm thankful for two things concerning the broom today. Firstly, that there hasn't been any rain for the last couple days and none overnight, so it's not wet. And also, the temperature overnight was not low enough to have dew, so they are dry. No raindrops, no dew. I've been through here before at this time of year and just gotten absolutely soaked because of all the wet weeds. You can see the mountain slope up ahead. We're going straight towards that, and then we curve to the left to go around it. And on our left, a bit of built up land where again there's old ties, and then a drop off down to the lake. And on the other side, the slope going up to the Wesley Ridge. This route is a narrow, winding corridor full of risk and danger. Dangerous drop off on one side and danger from above on the other. rocks. Sometime late 2021, early 2022, a good portion of the slope gave way at the top of the ridge. You can see it quite clearly from Highway 4 in the good sunlight. When the sun is hitting it, it's obvious that a bunch of the slope just fell down. Good Rockslide landslide. And the big rocks went thump right here. But still not as large as the big rock I saw earlier this morning at about mile 13.5. But these guys haven't moved and aren't likely to. They're just part of the railscape now. There's only one completely intact milepost on this hike for me today. It's here, milepost 15, hiding in the trees. Yeah, it's hard to see. In case you're wondering, this subdivision, they call it the Port Alberni subdivision, runs from Parksville train station, that's the junction, that's mile 0, and goes to Port Alberni, and the entrance to the city-owned rail yard near Stamp Avenue is around mile 36, something like that. Oh yeah, push through the broom. Keep the mouth shut. Don't want to swallow any spider webs. We're curving around that mountain slope that I showed earlier in the distance. This coming up right here is always a prominent curve that I like to note. Yeah, here's the wide angle view. Every time I've done this hike in the last few years, I come to the same realization about this point, that there's a reason why I only do this every year or every 15 months. It's because it's so difficult to do. And this is easier in a rare way because all the broom weeds aren't wet. But normally they are when I come through at this time of year. Yeah, it's just harsh area. Here's yet another landmark to me that I like to see, note. It's an old box that used to hold grease cans. Grease was used in mechanisms along the rail to grease the wheels of the rail cars as they went by. Now, to give you an idea of how fast this changes, a couple years ago, a lot of this broom had been cut back by some good recreational users, and I remember at the time remarking how great it was, but it comes back quickly. This is the place where a creek or something overflowed and brought a whole bunch of sediment down onto the tracks, and has covered the tracks because I'm in the middle of the rails and rails are not visible, and here's a mound of sediment that I walk on in the middle of the tracks, gain some elevation. Comes from up here. Just every time it's a big rainstorm, it washes more sediment down. That's where I came from. And let's continue between the tracks that you can't see, and I'll point out when we can finally see them. There they are on the left. And the track on the right is where my boot is. You have to trust me on that one. Well, there's no broom in the middle, but there's trees between the tracks. Island Corridor Tree Farm is well underway. Oh, back to the jungle. Here's one of the bigger trees I've seen standing close to the grade. Yeah, big thick trunk. Here are 2 lengths of the rail stockpiled, which tells me I'm about mile 15.9 or so. And here's an area that they kept maintenance supplies. Let's walk in here and show you. That's a pile full of joiner plates. That's a moss-covered pile of whatever those things are. Same thing in a barrel right here. Here's a wooden box covered with weeds that held grease cans. It's really hard to see that, I know. And here's a collection of old grease cans. 2 rows. Front row, back row, and I always like to note the lovely treble clef artwork on one of them. Okay, back to the line. This area right here is wood between the tracks. This was a set on, set off area for equipment. But the wood is almost all disintegrated now. Here's one of my favorite places. The post there is for milepost 16. The 16 sign went missing a few years ago. I like this place for a few reasons. There's a bent rail there from windfalls. This is often my turnaround and resting place on hikes from either end, from where I came at the east end of Cameron Lake or from the Alberni summit. And so this is roughly the halfway area for now, and the next half a mile is hard to get to at the end of a hike from either direction, and so I like it because it's hard to get to, so that gives it a bit more value to me. Lots of work to get there. Also means it's quiet, relatively undisturbed. Undisturbed except by nature. This is a new break I've seen. So, and I was here at mile 16 back in October.
I'm doing this video editing now, almost a week after my hike, and this is hilarious to watch because I'm so committed to telling my story about how this is a fun, hard to reach area. Obviously, I see what's coming up ahead, but I just keep telling my story until I'm literally upon this carnage. I guess my neurodivergent strong focus is kind of showing.
So this has happened in the last 5 months. Well, a bunch of earth came down. What was it? Trees. Boom, boom. And maybe a rock that went flying besides this rock going thump. But I'm standing on a tie that's pushed up. There's the broken rail. There's the other side. There's part of it, and there's a nice broken part there going through. Wow, this is mile 16.05.
Let's look at some wide angle video thanks to my Google Pixel 8 cell phone.
Yeah, nature pushes back hard. Pardon the vertical video, but let's walk down here. Big trees. Who knows? Maybe big rock as well. Where'd it come from? Way up there. Boom. Lovely smell of wood. Yeah. Okay, let's continue on. So yeah, look at this tie plate, thumped out by a big tree. That's part of it. The terms I use are not engineering terms. Thumped out by the big thump of a tree falling down. Let's take a look at the gauge of the railway. Maybe it's on its way to being narrow gauge there, pushed in a bit. Just before I continued my hike, I took a couple photos looking railway east. And I know that coming up in about 0.2 of a mile, there's another rail break from a couple years ago. So they just keep on accumulating. As my buddy Jim tells me, who used to work this area, this has always been a problem area. The northwest corner of Cameron Lake, here between mile 16 and 17. Oh, should I go through? Why not? I love telling this story every time I'm by here. Up on the left is a windfall that was cleared, and I call it my low light Mike tree. That's because the good people that cleared it left a message on it that said, "Hello, low light." That was back in, we'll say 2021. It's barely visible now, but it said it there. I'll show you a photograph of me posing in front of it. So the spot always reminds me to be grateful for the good people that take their time to clear some of these obstacles. Okay, let's continue on westward, hoping to get to mile 16.7 and a turnaround there. A couple things. Every time I start a clip and you see the weeds moving in front of me, you know I was just there, and I decided to back up a little bit and film the approach. So here's another rail break. This one happened a couple years ago. Old news to me, but just yet another obstacle. Oh, and the culprit? A windfall, which likely just happened way up the slope and just went tumbling down at a high rate of speed until it goes thump and breaks the rail. Pushes the rail in to more than a narrow gauge right there. We have the gauge is set at just over 1 foot width. Sorry, any railway purists without a sense of humor. I'll take advantage of this rare, relatively clear sight line and say that I just love the mystery of a curve on a railway track. Never quite know where it's going to go, but I do. I've been here before. Here's another area of rockfall happening all the time. Evidence of an old broken rail. Thank you, East End Track Gang. Pile of old fallen rock. Yeah, hard place to railroad. This is where the trail comes up for hikers going up to Mount Wesley and Mount Horn. It comes up from the cabin road at the west end of Cameron Lake. Steep climb up. But if you've ever seen online hiking maps of people's paths to go up to those mountains, there's a portion that they go on the railway from here a bit eastward and then go up the slope. This is a brief bit of level respite for them. As for me, I'm getting close to my turnaround. Relatively clear track and a cute little tree right here. Nice. Here's a spot, mile 16.6. It was cleared out during the fiber optic cable project, which happened in 2021, 2022. I think they used it to turn around equipment here. And this curve ahead is my turnaround, mile 16.7. Below this lovely cliff.
The top of this cliff always makes me think of the late David Wilkie and his son Mike, who have been up there taking photographs of the view to Cameron Lake with a chartered dayliner below on the tracks. Here are a couple photographs taken by Mike Dunham Wilkie on those charters from August and October 1970. I'm thankful for his permission to use his photos in my video. I like comparing his 1970s scene and the present 2020s scene. His is better.
Things change over time. 50 plus years of growth of trees. Sight lines are gone. But I like to remember the people that have been here before me doing photographs. I realize that I am not the first photographer to be there and get various shots and angles. It goes back quite a ways. So I feel humbled to be part of that. Sometimes I have to bring out my wide angle cell phone to capture everything. The lake on the right and the rails on the left. And put up with a bit of distortion on the angles, making it look like things are curved on the corners. Okay, not going that way. I'll come back that way sometime from Alberni Summit, sometime hopefully this spring. I'll just zoom in here on my turnaround, looking westward where I'm not going today, just because there's a lovely S-curve right there. I like that. Okay, this is a good time to say that I've completed most of my video recording for this hike. Just do it one way. So I'm at my turnaround, so I will just bring out my camera for major things like mileposts, the big trestle, and if I see a cougar or a Sasquatch. Now it's strictly business. Let's walk back to the car. I'm tired. About mile 16.5 on the left here is where the trail goes up. If you're going to Mount Wesley, steep trail going up. I always like the trail sign. It gets a bit battered by the rocks over the years. But there it is. I continue eastward. Here's the naked post at mile 16. Here's milepost 15 on the right side. Still hard to see. Well, it's just a few minutes past noon and I finished my break here, my 3/4 break, or the fraction for miles is 6 miles done out of 8 total. So let's do these final 2 miles, starting with the mile 14.6 Big Trestle. Oh, I love this view. Beautiful cloudy day. Cameron Lake, I like it. Let's zoom in to Angel Rock on Highway 4. Well, until next time, Trestle, maybe 7 months from now in October for some autumn leaf season. But I don't think I'm back here until then at the earliest. It's good to know it still exists for now. Here at mile 14.5, you can see the lake looking eastward above all this broom. Here's a nice view to Angel Rock again. Here I am, mile 14 Trestle. This is the good one. This is the one that just doesn't belong with all the other ones. It's just so weird that it's in such good shape. Even the fire barrel platform looks almost perfect. The first of the twin trestles of decay. This is the short one. Yeah. I was just crossing that. I'm on solid ground, held in by a retaining wall. And let's do the other one. Mile 13.7 Trestle. I'm being brave and I'm on the near edge of the fire barrel platform. After testing it for weight, I made it across this one too. My feet on the stringer. That's what the stringer beam looks like. Oh, here's the fun again at about mile 13.5. Ginormous rock there. Small ones around. Let's do it. Here's the ginormous rock. Question is, does the rail still exist under there? Or did it get broken and pushed? Who knows? And we came from way up there. Well, that's the near rail. The far rail is buried. There's the gigantic rock. I'm gonna go that way, eastward. I have to make a bit of a detour. Same as I did this morning on the way out. Here's the spare rail. But here's also the carnage of the big rocks just knocking these trees down. Wow. So, wonder if this spare rail, well, this spare rail got moved because it's on its side. Yeah. Oh, I got two rails again. Yeah. Nice scene. Here's the old water tower site. Carefully cross this first. So again, the concrete forms for the water tower now hold up the spare rails. Yeah, there. There's the other one. There's a green triangle sign, resume speed. Well, I don't have any energy for speed right now. Cameron Lake siding. And the station name sign. There's the wide angle to take it all in. Here's the little Qualicum River. There's the road bridge. Thanks very much for watching this. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a great day. Yeah, I hate the broom. Hey Mike, why don't you come here in the summertime? Well, do you like picking ticks out of your armpits and crotch?